Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, we're in the studio. We are live. So get involved in the chat in the comments. We're going to be talking about all the latest Manchester United news. We're going to be talking a little bit about Michael Carrick, about some of the reactions so far to the results he's been getting. Also having a look at some of the other managers that have been linked with the Manchester United job. And it seems like it's almost like the kiss of death. Once you get linked with the Manchester United job, you start to struggle. So we'll be getting into all that. Make sure you're getting involved in those comments as well. Plus, we'll have a little bit of an update on any transfer news. Let's not forget as well, we should have the press conference, I think, today ahead of the Fulham game this weekend. So we're going to look at the Fulham game a little bit later on. But as of now, if any news coming in ahead of that game, we will cover that too. So make sure you're giving us a heads up if you hear anything. You might be a bit ITK yourself. You never know. Some people are. Right, let's start off then. Let's get into this. Let's start with Roy Keane. Roy Keane here, you see it there on your screen. Roy Keane makes sudden U-turn on Michael Carrick, getting the Man United job permanently after previous war of words involving the interim manager's wife. I hope they give it to him. Roy Keane has insisted he wants Michael Carrick to be handed the permanent United job in a seeming U-turn from his previous comments. The legendary midfielder says he hopes United appoint him long-term and praised his work after Carrick masterminded wins against City and Arsenal. However, in mitigation, Keane still believes that United can get a better manager in the summer and says that it wouldn't be the right decision to hire Carrick. I watched this and I just thought it was a bit weird the way Keane was talking. I love Roy Keane, I do. And I love Michael Carrick as well. You can like them both, obviously. But when he was saying, like, giving the job, I don't think he was being sarky. But it was like he was saying, I think he said at one point, give it him and let's see how he gets on. And when it all goes wrong, we'll get someone else, we'll know we're right. It didn't feel like it was true, proper, emphatic, I think he's the right guy for the job, give it him. And it would have been a huge sort of U-turn because only, I think after the Arsenal game, he was saying even if he wins every match on hand in the season, he shouldn't get it. So to suddenly go from that to a few days later on the overlap saying, oh yeah, give him the job like permanently would be a stretch. I think it was not tongue-in-cheek, but it was almost like saying, look, if you all think he's the right guy for the job, give it him. Let's see what he's about. And when it goes wrong, we can all move on. That's how it felt like to me. Let me know what you think. I was just chatting to producer Harry and Chris about this. It was a bit odd, the overlap. I watched it, the stick to football. I call it the overlap, stick to football. So it's Gary Neville, Scholes, Jill Scott, Ian Wright and Roy Keane. So they're talking obviously about the Arsenal game, about United, about Arsenal, about Carrick, about loads of different players. And I still thought there was a bit of negativity there. Gary Neville I thought was a little bit more balanced, but Scholesy and Keane, maybe it's just the high standards they've got. I don't know. It just seemed like they were a little bit almost downplaying parts of that win. And now maybe it's because I'm getting carried away and I'm an excited fan and I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. Dogu's goal and Cunha's goal. And we've gone to the Emirates and we've got a result. And we beat City last week and now we've beaten this team that are flying at the top of the table in their own backyard. And Michael Carrick's got 2 out of 2 and it's all great and everything's mint and da-da-da. But they just seemed a little bit like, I don't know. Keane was quite disparaging of the defence. You conceded 2 goals against Arsenal, and Gary Neville's trying to push back a bit and saying Arsenal set piece kings. It's different, it's a different gravy and all that. He's like, they've still conceded them. In terms of talking about Carrick, they were saying, well, he's done well, but he's had Mbumo come back. He's had Martinez back in the team. He's had, I know Martinez was in there already, but he's had Maguire and Martinez together. He's had Ahmad back from the AFCON. And Gary Neville's making the point of, well, hammering out all these players and for big chunks of the season, we didn't look at that good, and we certainly didn't look good enough to get back-to-back where you'd expect us to get back-to-back wins like we have against Arsenal and City. So, I don't know. Let me know what you think. If you saw it, let me know what you think. I don't know. It just seemed a bit weird to me. It just seemed like they weren't really feeling it. Now, maybe it's because they've been here before. Maybe it's because you sort of saw it with Ollie when he was caretaker. Everything went mint for a while. Maybe it's because they don't rate Carrick as a manager. They don't think he should be the manager. I know Paul Scholes was his teammate, and him and Carrick formed a very good partnership for years. Him and Keane obviously have a little bit of an history together, not a bit of needles, should we say. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm overstating it all. But let me know what you think. And make sure you are hitting that like button as well, please, people. The Webbed Fear says, Jay, you stood up. You're having a good morning. Thank you, sir. Shows Roy is in his feelings with his comments, says Jacoya Trot. Scholes it and Keane definitely have an axe to grind with the club, says my Ute. I loved Roy as a player and captain too, but he's always been bitter since his exit. don't know. I feel like it's getting a little bit worse. I don't know. I think the Carrick thing in particular. Now, look, Keane might be right. Yeah, we don't know yet. It's far too early to tell. It's 2 games in, even if you count the other 3 games he managed previously, which it's not irrelevant, but it's not really, fair. So it's 2 games in. Yes, they've been fantastic results, and those 2 results and performances were great. However, we have to temper it somewhat and go, it's still early doors. So I understand there might be an air of caution, and you don't want to get too carried away. And you don't be like, oh, you know what, Manchester United are back and everything's great and we're going to smash it and all the rest of it, because you can go, look, we might end up with egg on our faces if we were to lose the next 7 games, whatever. However, from what we've seen, it's been so much better than what we were watching. It really has. Now, I know there's still some people out there who can go, Ruben Amorim didn't get the fair crack of the whip. We saw some good parts of Ruben Amorim's tenure and all the rest of it. Okay, fair enough. However, I think in terms of the performances, the 2 best performances I've seen from Manchester United over the last... Certainly the best performance, let me just qualify it slightly. The best performance over 90 minutes I've seen, arguably post-Fergie, over 90 minutes, was against City at Old Trafford. Now, you might say, we beat City in the FA Cup final, we beat them in the end last season. In those games, we had a big chunk of that game where City were in it. In the FA Cup final, for the last 20 minutes, City were in it. They got the goal. They were all over us. At the Etihad, it wasn't a fantastic performance throughout the 90 minutes. It was a bit back and forth. It was a bit of a scrappy game, and we got the late winner. Also, I'm not just talking about City. Other games where we've got results, the game at Anfield, we've had wins under Ollie at the Emirates, a win at the Emirates in the FA Cup, I think it was. But I thought, in terms of the performance, over 90 minutes, that was the best performance I think I've seen post-Alex Ferguson. Let me know if you disagree. We've had loads of good performances. Let's not dismiss them, but I thought that was against the top side. From start to finish, we really stepped up. The Arsenal game, I wouldn't say it was the best performance I've seen, post-Fergie, but it was a very, very good performance. And it was 2 of the best goals I've seen in many years. Certainly that Dorgu one was phenomenal. So I think there's a reason to feel cheerful. There's a reason to feel happy. There's a reason to feel optimistic. We're seeing something that is a little bit different than just 2 wins. It's 2 good wins against great opposition where you've been given a different kind of test in those 2 games. The first game against City, you're at home, you've got the sort of, everyone's behind you, the crowd are behind you, and I thought tactically and in terms of effort and everything else, United got everything right. Tactically, Carrick got his tactics right, his setup was all right, the 11... I thought in terms of effort it was great. Players stepped up, all good. Everything about that. The Arsenal game was slightly different because you had all the stuff where you can go, okay, tactically he made the right decision. I think he did. I think players showed the energy and effort, but they showed that bit of resilience as well and that belief because they went behind. We went behind twice, I think. Oh no, sorry, we went behind and then we were drawing as well. And yet we still managed to keep going and to have that little bit of quality, well, a lot of quality, and that belief as well. It's a different question being asked at the Emirates than was being asked against City. So there's reasons to look at it and go, those 2 sides to it. This is what you want from Manchester United side. And Gary Neville was kind of saying that. The others were a little bit... Jill Scott was on the fence. Ian Wright obviously was just a bit fuming that Arsenal lost. But Wright and... Keane and Scholes seemed a little bbit more... I don't know. Sceptical, shall we say, that we're seeing anything yet. Which, I don't know. It's as a United fan, I'd like to see him be a little bit more optimistic. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I know they've got a job to do and they've got to be balanced and all the rest of it, but come on. You can be, happy and buzzing and maybe get a little bit carried away after what you've seen. Let me know what you think. Get involved in the chat in the comments. Do you agree? Kevin Rees says, our best displays since early Ollie. Definitely, good point. Early Ollie was some good performance as well. I mean, you can look at PSG games like that. Just think in terms of that City performance from start to finish, just great. James McGrogan says, also, everybody cries about long-term success, but many aren't willing to put the groundwork in and wait 3 years for long-term success to come fruition. Yeah, we've always had this idea, haven't we, at United, that we're going to have a long-term option, that the manager that comes in is going to be long-term. So we're going to have, Eric Ten Hag because he's a long-term manager, or even going back to when we first appointed David Moyes, we gave him a 6-year deal. Then it's Ruben Amorim who's going to be a long-term manager, he's a young manager who's going to be here for many, many years. We always sort of have this idea that we're going to have these long-term managers. Now, the problem with that is, if you are going to be a long-term, short-term, you have to have a level of success. I'm not saying you have to win the league in your first few seasons, but you have to maintain United in and around the top 4. And what happened with both Ruben Amorim and Eric Ten Hag and even David Moyes is we dropped out of the top 4. That's what cost them the jobs. Even Louis van Gaal. Louis van Gaal won the FA Cup and got sacked pretty much the same day. Yes, because Jose Mourinho was waiting in the wings, but also because it looked like over the Christmas period, United were dropping so far behind, we weren't going to make the top 4, and we didn't. That kind of did for him. So you have to sort of have short-term success of sorts to be able to be given the ability or the time to have long-term success. And many managers haven't done that. And Jill Scott was making a point on the overlap. I will move on from the stick to football, in a minute. She was making the point that would Fergie have survived in this modern era with the start that he had? I think his start was second in his first full season. And then it was it 11th and 13th, and then we won the FA Cup. The Champions League obviously didn't exist then in terms it was the European Cup, and United I think English teams were banned from it when Fergie took over. So that's a moot point. But it wasn't the same thing of like where you finish in the top 4 and you're in the Champions League. You know what I mean? So it was slightly different then. Now, however, you need to see people or a manager who can come in, get short-term success, and then be given the time to build. And we're just not had it yet. Rashford said it's hard to start a rebuild when you're constantly rebuilding, says Raven 78. Number 9 Scrum says Keane literally wants Diego Simeone to be the coach. 4-4-2, part of the bus manager, yet he moans about the player under Amorim being boring. Head coaches are not superheroes, let's not forget that. Find good players first, says Football Cartoons. I will say one thing. I do feel like the recruitment's been better and we've got a better squad now to work with. Whether that's Michael Carrick or a new manager coming in, we have a better squad, and I think that's going to help the next manager, because you look throughout that squad and I can see a lot of quality there. Conga 1993 says, I could see the new manager like Enrique Howe, Tuchel take Carrick in as assistant coach and have Carrick learn more from them when they leave, he takes over. Potentially, I just think it's a bit difficult, even if you're a Ketic, going from manager to assistant, having that step down, having you being the main man to you being sort of second in command and having to do as you're told at points, because it's the manager's call, isn't it, who he picks and what tactics he have. You can try and influence him, but it's not your call. You don't have the final decision. So I just think it's a difficult sort of move to do that, to take a step back for going from manager to assistant. It doesn't happen very often. I can't even recall it. I mean, it probably has happened, but I can't think of anyone. Let's talk about Roberto De Zerbi, because he was linked, wasn't it, with the United job, and there was a lot of people looking at him as one of the favourites. Obviously done very well at Brighton, was doing bits at Marseille, was looked at someone who's, you know, this young progressive manager who's quite admired throughout Europe. Thought, you know, he sort of fits that mould of someone who can come in and work with these players, and maybe is a type of head coach type guy, I don't know, but he's had a bit of a stinker. So first of all, they got knocked out of the the Champions League on, was it Wednesday? The late goal by Benfica's goalkeeper saw Benfica go through on goal difference. I think Marseille are out now. So that was a bit of a stinker for him, because I think there was a bit of an expectation that they'd be able to do quite well in the Champions League this season, and they haven't. So this is a sort of opinion piece here in the MEN saying, has Jose Mourinho just helped Manchester United because now De Zerbi will be cheaper to get? I don't know if he's helped Manchester United at all. There's another De Zerbi story I want to get to, actually, because this is doing the rounds this morning. Apparently he wants to quit, and he's ready to quit Marseille with the fiery, you can see this in goal, fiery Italian coach said to have handed in his resignation following failure to guide the Ligue 1 Giants towards the last 16 of the Champions League. So, I mean, that's not a good look, is it, to be honest with you? If you're sort of quitting Marseille, are you going to be able to just walk into a job at Manchester United if your last job is at Marseille and you quit because things were going wrong? I don't see it myself. I really don't. I think that could be, I just think it's a bit of a stretch. Let me know what you think. Do you want De Zerbi? Because I'll talk about other managers in a minute. Just on the De Zerbi front, do you think he's the right man for the job? Because he's kind of, you know, not managing his way out of the Manchester United job, but it ain't looking great for him at the minute, is it? If you've just knocked out the Champions League and then you're quitting, I don't think we've had it confirmed he's definitely quit, but if he's handed his resignation, it does feel like that's going to happen sooner rather than later. Peter Gajewski, forgive me if I butchered that one. Welcome to the Academy. Thank you for supporting. Mr. C1913 says, Jay, that description of De Zerbi. It just sounds like Amorim. Maybe there is a little bit of Amorim in it. It's pretty obvious Neville and Cole know United sells them, will do whatever they want for clicks, says Rambo Ravi. I mean, I'd get them talking about the Arsenal United game. I think they've got to, but some of what they said about it, you might not agree with. De Zerbi and is another chancer chasing the bag, says Red Monkey. No way De Zerbi, says Michael Griffin. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be a popular figure. And it's not going great. Other managers as well have been linked with a job. Because Antonio Conte, who some people said, well, maybe we could get Conte in. I think Napoli have just been knocked out of the Champions League. So he's having one at the minute. And you look at Oliver Glasner. Oliver Glasner was a manager that I think he's still the favourite in a lot of with a lot of the bookies. But if you look at Palace, they're 15th. They're having a run as well. I think is it 3 defeats and 2 draws in the last 5 games. So they're not doing well. And it looks like they're about to lose Jean-Philippe Mateta, which obviously is going to hurt them. So Glasner as well has just come out speaking about the owners, sort of speaking up about the lack of backing he's had. Are Ineos going to look at him and go, yeah, let's get him, managing United and get him in front of a camera and let's have another Ruben Amorim situation where if we don't get him the players he wants, he sort of goes out there and slags us all off. So it just feels at the minute like a lot of the candidates and potential candidates for the Manchester United job are talking or playing or managing the way out of it, to be honest. I know there's still others that I've not mentioned. You can talk about Thomas Tuchel. Luis Enrique is one that's a popular choice amongst many in the United fan base, but there's a couple there that you think that had a very good chance or could have a good chance of being United manager who ain't doing themselves any favours at the minute. Peter Gajewski says, United, we're getting top 4. That lad is getting his hair cut, and our Michael Carrick gets the full-time job. Love from Macedonia. Thank you, Peter. Thanks, or Petar. I'm not sure if that's how I pronounce it. Appreciate you supporting the channel from afar as well. Talk about Steve Holland. He's getting all the flowers at the minute. This is a opinion piece in the BBC. Simon Stone, who's been on the channel, he says why Holland could be key to Man United's revival under Carrick. Steve Holland, who is an experienced coach, innit? And he's come in and he's got a reputation. I think he's worked with the England players, the England squad. Obviously knows some of the players from that as well. Apparently he's very heavily involved in training. And a lot of people are looking at Steve Holland as being one of the reasons that we've had so much success in those 2 games. He's got heavily involved in the training, getting a result, getting a reaction. The players are responding to it, and he's doing well. And a lot of people are going, you know what? You need someone like Steve Holland in that coaching setup because you've got Michael Carrick, who's obviously he's got a coaching experience, but he's not vastly experienced compared to others. Same with Jonathan Woodgate. But someone like Steve Holland, I think in his mid-50s, been coaching for years and has a very, very good reputation. And a lot of people who've worked with him say, look, he's very, very underrated or very highly rated, if you want to look at it that way, when it comes to coaching players. And so far, so good. It made me laugh because when he walked he walked in front of the crowd against City and everyone was cheering and clapping him and he was giving a little wave and he walked down the tunnel and my mate next to me went, who the fuck's that? Because not everyone knows who Steve Holland is. But he's beginning to get a lot of praise. Sam says, De Zerbi is a lunatic and they're famous for handing press and scrutiny well. Also saw Joe in Tesco shoving his fingers into a pack of wafer thin ham. Oh, he's gone from fighting outside Asda to fingering ham in Tesco's. Oh dear. Let's talk about one of my favourite players, Lisandro Martinez. Lisandro Martinez has been quoted here. He says, I think if you play for this club, it's because you have something. You need some people who understand your quality, and I think Carrick is doing that. He's getting the best out of everyone, not just the players, but the staff, the standard, the structure, and demands are really important. And for me, when you touch my heart, I will give everything for you. And he touched it already. And you can see that on the pitch. We give everything. I like that. Nothing wrong with praising the manager. We've seen a good response from the players. There is good vibes at the minute. I hope it continues. Conga says, maybe go for an unknown like Kiteli Knutson, being a success in Europe with Europa League semi-final last year, and now next round in the Champions League, beating big teams with Bodo Glimt, playing a flying attacking football. I worry that would be too big a step up. That's my only concern with that. Coming to a club like Manchester United, when you've been at a club like Bodo Glimt, ain't the same. It's not even in the same stratosphere, almost literally. So I just worry that, is that going to be problematic, making that step up? And if things go a little bit sticky, people are going to go, over-promoted this guy, he should not be here, like they did a little bit when things went wrong for Ollie and things went wrong for Ruben Amorim. It was like, was this too big a step up? Let me know what you think. Get involved in the chat. Hit that like button as well. Don't forget, I think we've got a press conference later on today. We're going to be hearing from Ruben Amorim here, what he's got to say. We've got the brew as well. Got me, Steve, and a special guest coming in there. A good friend of the channel who's not been on for a little while, bringing him back. Plus, we'll be doing a preview after the press conference. And we had a chat with the 1958. I think that's going up tonight because there's going to be a protest ahead of the Fulham game. So if you're not doing so already, make sure you're hitting like, share, and subscribe. Just before we go as well, let me put a little link here in for the merchandise. I'll put that in to the chat there. You can see support the channel and get some top quality merch there. If I can actually pin that, which I will do. There's a pin message, I think, in the chat. I've been Jay Motti. This has been the Paper Talk. Thanks for watching.